healing yourself first before try to heal our kids.
Heal yourself first before you try to heal your kids. Another way of expressing that might be, before you try to solve your kids' problems, try to solve your own first.
Yes.
Before you try to discipline your kids, try to discipline yourself first.
Yes, many parents are not aware that there are skills to be better parents. I mean, I'm guilty of it.
Me too.
Yeah.
I think we all are. Just
Yeah.
we grew out of it and we're more aware of it. So now at this stage in life, when we mess up, because we're human, we're supposed to mess up on stuff. Instead of always pointing the finger at the kids, we'll still do that, but 9 times out of 10, we'll first look at ourselves and ask ourselves, well, what I ask myself is, what did I do to contribute to that negative result? What did I do to contribute to that negative result? And that's including me being neglecting of my child on certain things that cause them to act in a certain way.
Right. That's so important to recognize that. But one thing I wanted to address is that so often, we are told, oh, that children is difficult. This child's easy. She has this, and he or she doesn't. I wanted to discard that, because when we do that, we feel stuck, right? And
Are you talking about when parents look at other kids, like other parents' kids?
yeah, when the kids
Like the other ones are better?
yeah,
Okay,
or
I get
this
that.
one have that. I'm so easy, he's easygoing, she's difficult. I believe we should not label our kids that way, and I hear so much about that, and it makes us as parents stuck, right? Instead, ask ourselves questions like, what caused this child to act this way and that one to act this way? But instead we don't, and we think that they're born difficult or they're born easy.
I would agree. Some people just believe that certain kids are born easy and some are difficult, and there might be some truth to that. I'm not a child expert, so I'm not going to say for sure it is or isn't. I would believe that there's some truth to that. I've also noticed that sometimes, in my circle at least, can't talk about everyone, when some of my friends will look at their friends' kids, and I've seen this firsthand, they'll sometimes look at the other kids and be like, wow, look, their kid's so well behaved. Oh, wow, look, this one barely cries. And then they look at somebody else's kids and like, this one's crying all the time. This one's jumping around like a monkey. This one's like tearing the place apart. But look at these kids. They're so, look, they're playing so nice. They're not ripping each other's hair out. What, like, wow, I wish I had that kind of kid.
Or even worse, they would call that child a curse. I hear many of it.
Which brings us back to the point of this conversation. We've learned that if we say that about our kids or someone else's kids, if we say this about our kids, like our own children, we have to self-reflect and say, what did I do to create that? Now, some parents would probably disagree with me, and that's fine. I'm not here to tell people what to do. In this channel, we're just sharing our experience. What I've learned, and you can back me up on this, or you can say I'm wrong, I'm open to it. What I've learned, for example, is that one of my friends who has wild children, like wild, the moment you come through the door, they're throwing things at you, they're screaming, they're running around, they treat the living room like it's tackle football. They just run into each other. They have a sister, so they're young kids. They're all under 8 years old, and they run right past the sister. Sometimes they run over the sister, and the sister's like, like on the ground. And you look at how wild they are, and then you ask yourself, like, why are they so wild? But then you look at how the parents interact with each other, the parents are constantly yelling at each other. When they disagree, they instantly go into fight or flight. there's not a lot of patience between the husband and wife. And I'm not being disrespectful. It's like literally just like a math equation, right? Like this is the result. What's the equation to that result? So if you look at the model of what these children are growing up with, they're growing up with two parents who I'm sure love them. I'm sure they mean well. They're doing the best they can. But because they never learned their own tools of emotional control under heavy situations, their instant go-to is scream. What the heck? Yeah, so like when the kids are like this, and with the little babies, they just see, oh, Mom,
it's okay to do that.
They just scream all the time. So now what happens is the kids just start screaming. Their immediate communication is hit each other and scream. And then it's heartbreaking. Like, I'm not judging. I actually feel bad because these are my friends. I look at the mom and dad. The dad doesn't have enough patience, so he just like sometimes like bursts out a yell, and then they get really quiet. So they're learning fear dad, but only behave around dad. And then you look at the mom. She's trying her best, but what she'll do is she'll kindly tell the kids, hey, Mommy doesn't like it when you do that. Can you please stop? And I see the sincerity in the kid's face. I'm sorry, Mommy, I don't mean it. I'm sorry. And then they hug and they kiss, and it's all good. 5 minutes later, boom, the kid's doing it again. Going crazy, throwing stuff. But you can see the confusion. Mommy just said, don't do that. I'm sorry. Okay. But why does the kid keep doing that? Why does the kid behave that way consistently? Because as soon as Mommy's like, oh, Mommy, okay, absolutely, don't do that. Mommy doesn't like it. It's so soft for the kid. But because there's pain between the husband and wife, when she talks back to the husband, what the? It's on. So now the kids are getting two different communications, two different signals. They're being told, be good, but their model of be good is still yell, scream, disagree, throw stuff. But then when they're being told, don't do that. Like, I can see that there's pain. And I can relate, because when I grew up, I was told, don't hit people. I'm talking like kindergarten, grade 1. Don't hit people. Don't scream and yell. Don't. I was never told actually how to behave. I was just told behave. Like, I'm supposed to know what that was. And then I would go to school at grade 1 and punch people. I'd get into fights. Grade 1, I was getting into fights. And I thought that was normal. So when I would go to the principal's office and sit there for an hour before the principal would come see me and then call my parents, I would literally sit there and I'd be like, why am I in trouble? I don't get it. I thought when you don't like something, you hit people. It wasn't until after grade 2 that I stopped hitting people, because I was going to counsel. I had 3 counselors in grade 1. 3 in grade 1. And they were trying to teach me, like, you speak to people. If you don't like it, you say, I don't like this. And I still remember looking at them like, huh? What, that's it? You don't have to, like, no, you don't have to do. I was so confused. So, long story, but moral of the story is, if we see our children doing something we dislike, it's an immediate, like for us, now we look at ourselves and we go, at what stage of our life as they were growing up, did we ever do something to implicate that this style of behavior was acceptable? And it's not always hidden. Like, sometimes it could be as simple as, when you don't like something, walk away. So if the kids see 2 parents disagreeing and one of them doesn't like it and takes off, don't be surprised if, when the child is having a disagreement with a friend, a sibling, or a mom or dad, that immediately after a few minutes, they're being taught, they just shut down. And they go quiet, and they don't say anything. They go to the corner, they read a book, they exclude themselves. Well, that didn't just happen. It happened because they got that model from somewhere. And it's not always parents, okay? I'm not trying to sit here demonizing parents. Like, come on. Everything we're saying, I'm talking about me too. I had to live through this. But I'm also saying that in this channel, in this talk, but if we care about our kids as much as we say we do, it is vital, in our opinion, to be very aware, self-aware of how we are treating not just the kids, but especially our spouse, especially during times of disagreement. Because kids will never listen to what we say, but they will always do some version of what we do.
You're totally right. I give you an example. One day, my son, in his early 20s, just last year, he came home. Me and my husband were just watching TV. So my son came back, opened the door, and he didn't say anything. And he just walked upstairs to his room to the kitchen. And I was sitting there. I wish he said, "Hi, Mom, how was your day? I'm home." And then I asked my husband, first time, "Oh, did you want him to say hi to us?" He go, "Yeah, that would be nice." And then I asked him, "Do we do that when we come home? Do we say, 'Hi kids, I'm home'?" And then we think back. I said, "You come home, do you do that?" And he said, "No, I never do that." And how do we expect our kids to do? I really wanted my son, "Hi Mom,"
It's nice when you get acknowledged.
Yeah.
For sure.
And
It feels good when our kids acknowledge us, like, "Hi Dad,"
Yeah.
"Hi Mom,"
Yeah.
instead of just being like strangers that live together in the apartment, like roommates, right?
Yeah, but again, it's like, what did we do? I know what he mean, my husband mean, because I have a hard time saying when I come home, "Hi kid," sometimes I do, because my own mom does it, but his mom doesn't, right? His mom comes home, my mother-in-law comes home, you have to say hi to her. Like, you have kids come over, why don't you say hi to me? But with my own mom, as soon as she sees my kids or anyone, hi, she would be the one to say hi first, right? So it's a difference, right? This is entitlement sort of thing. I'm older, you're supposed to say hi to me. So I asked my husband, is it because we didn't set a good example when we come home?
Right.
And now look, our kids is doing that.
Right.
And he actually feel what I was talking about. And the first time he could reflect, wow, it would be nice if my son come home, my daughters come home or come over, hi, start talking. Even though they want to, but it's just not in the habit of doing that.
Right.
And then we feel that as parents, it would be nice, when we have grandkids, teach them, say, "Hi, grandmother," or something like that, right?
Right.
Because we didn't set a good example, and this is what we got. So I know what you're talking about. Monkey see, monkey do.
Yeah.
If we want our kids to do that, we have to show them from start.
Yeah.
So, and I asked him, "Do you want it to change it?" And then he go, "Yeah. Okay, from now on, we practice. When you come home and say hi, practice saying that." And it's better now, but it's still not getting the results as fast as I wanted, because it's been 20-something years of not doing it, and then all of a sudden you expect, right?
Right.
Yeah, so
Right.
that was so important to use that example to share here.
Yeah, it's super important because, as we said in the last couple of videos, when our kids leave our house, the time that we'll have with them, on average, it's different for everybody, but there's research out there that says that most kids, when they leave the home, they leave the nest, the equivalence is only going to be about 1 year's worth of seeing their kids, of seeing the parents, over the course of the rest of their life, of the parent's life. So imagine the kid leaves by the time they're 30, and let's say that the parent is 60. Well, let's say that there's another 30 years, so the parents live till 90. Let's just say, for example, that means over that 30-year period, that difference between 60 and 90, the amount of days you'll see your kids after they move out will be average 1 year. That's 365 days spread over 30 years. Like, holy shit! I'm going to say shit for that one, because that's really little time, right? So our belief system now that we're aware that that's going to be our future, and hopefully we get to see the kids more, obviously. But that's the average. Yeah, but even with Zoom, that's still not face to face. Like, I want to be able to hug my kid. I want to be able to hang out. I want to be able to like, you know, you want some ice cream? Let's go get some ice cream. Like, you know, like, oh, I gotta hold the door. Like, give me your ice cream while you hold the door. Like, I want that interaction with my kids, right? Zoom is still nice too. Don't take me wrong. But if I know I've got that much little time with them when they grow up and leave, me as a father, I really want to make sure that my established relationship with my child is as solid as I can make it. And solid means whether she does good or she screws up, she has the confidence and the security to come to me and tell me and know that I'm going to give her some shit if she really messed up, but I'll do it in a way where she doesn't feel defeated and she doesn't feel unloved. That was the biggest lesson I learned from having to rebuild this relationship with my daughter. When my stepdaughter, when it first started out so rough, like it was rough. The second part of this is that it goes back to what we originally discussed, which was if we see something that we don't like about our kids, we have to self-reflect and look at ourselves. But then it moves on to the second part, which is, well, how do you fix it? How do you, like, an example would be, I noticed that when me and my partner, when we have a disagreement, back then, years ago, me and my partner, we've never been yellers. We're at that stage in life where we might have moments of yelling, but like from 0 to 100, like it would be like 1%. I'm not kidding. Like we don't get to that place anymore. We did in the first 2 years. After 2 years, we both realized like this is stupid. We're adults here. What the hell are we doing? We can talk to each other better. So we learned to develop patience. But I've noticed my daughter before, when me and my partner would get into these like, you know, I don't agree. Like this is what you're doing. This is what I think, but I don't agree with that. The moment mom would get upset, instantly, my daughter would come and just not attack me, but it was like one side. She'd go on defense with mom. And she's like, you know, you shouldn't talk to her like this, and you shouldn't do it like that. You should do, like, instantly backing up mom. And I thought to myself, what would cause her to, and I like it because she's watching out for mom, but it was almost like she thought I was going to attack her mother. Like it was that level of defense. And I thought to myself, like, why would she get to that stage of being so defensive? Like, I understand, protect your mom, but I've never been the type to be like, you're doing this so wrong, like you are such a whatever. Like some people are really harsh with their words. I've learned to present the problem as like, here's you, my partner, here's the problem. The actions that are being taken is creating this problem, but you're not the problem. Because you can change the action, but you're still you. The problem can go away, but you're still here, right? Versus sometimes before, I used to be like, you are the problem. Like I've learned that's not the way to do things. So I used to think like, what would cause my daughter to be so defensive? And I learned over time that as she grew up, she would see my partner's exes. There weren't many of them, there's a couple of them, but the way they used to fight in the past, it was very like blame, blame, blame. You did this, you did that. And it would obviously escalate, blow up. It would get very, erratic. So my daughter was programmed to believe, well, look, if they're gonna fight, whoever the role model, the dad role model is at that time, he's probably going to verbally and emotionally attack my mother. Because she saw her mother cry a lot before we got together. And so I had to teach my daughter. I was like, okay, I could take this personally and be like, why are you attacking me so much? What the hell did I do to you? I could have done that. Obviously not the right choice. So instead, I looked at my daughter and I actually pulled her aside this one time because it happened like 2 or 3 times. And I looked at her and I said this. I said, listen, kiddo, you don't have to protect your mom so much. And it's probably better that you don't. And she looked stunned, like, oh, what? And I looked at her and I said, when mom and dad are fighting, you have to trust that we are adults and we'll figure this out. Like, I get that you have to protect your mom. I'm actually glad you did because before she probably needed it. But now she's got me. And you see how I deal with our problems. I'm not yelling and screaming. Am I? And my daughter's like, oh. I was like, am I telling your mom that she's completely wrong and she screws everything up? Am I putting her down? She stood there for a second like, no. I was like, exactly. So this level of aggression you're showing me, please don't do that, because if you do, you're causing separation in our family. Do you want us to be separated? She got that instantly. She's like, no. And I was like, then just trust me. Trust us. Okay, we're not going to leave. We're not going to break up. We're not going to fall apart. You can hear how we're disagreeing. You got to admit, it's fairly reasonable compared to what you've grown up with and seen. She totally agreed, because she knows we're being mature. When we disagree, we disagree. It's very black and white that way. But the one thing we will not do, we will not dishonor each other by just putting each other down. That's one thing in my household I'm very proud of. There might be moments where we screw that up, like I've made that mistake. But when I catch myself, I actually stop the whole conversation. I look at them both and I go, oh, wait, let me back up a sec. I screwed up that one part. I didn't mean it that way. I'm sorry.
You're not perfect.
Yeah, and then I'll correct myself. I'll say what I meant. Like if I said, you screwed up on that. I've done that before, okay, I'll admit. When I've done that, I look back at both of them. I say, well, wait, I'm sorry. I don't mean it like that. What I actually meant to say is that action produced this kind of result. But it's not like you screwed up. It's not like you meant to do it. I'm just letting you know, when you do this, it hurts me. Because I feel like you're not being mindful of what I'm feeling too. And we're a family. We're supposed to watch out for each other. So what happens now is when we get into disagreements, which again is rare, because we're better now at communicating, my daughter will see us. She'll watch, she'll observe. But she won't see us yell, she won't see us scream. She'll see us like walk away to separate rooms, but she no longer freaks out like what she used to think before. Or are they gonna break up? Am I not gonna see my dad anymore? Who am I gonna live with? Like all this stuff kept running through her head. That's no longer there. Now what does my daughter do? She goes plays games. And then if it lasts more than an hour, she'll check in on mom, she'll check in on me.
So sweet.
Are you guys talking yet?
Oh.
Right? It's so like, oh my God. And I'll look at her. Like, it's one time I'm on the computer, I'm working. I'm trying to cool down. My partner's trying to cool down. My daughter comes around the corner. Dad, are you guys okay yet? And I looked at her. I'm like, kiddo, no, we're good. Don't worry. We just need time to cool off. Mom needs to cool off.
She sounds like the adult.
I need to cool off. Right?
Like a little kid too.
Right? I mean, I'm trying to explain to my daughter. It's like, oh, thank you, adult daughter. Thank you for checking up on us. We're just calming down, but we're fine. Like we'll work it out. Like I look at her. I'm like, sweetie, you know we're gonna work it out. We always do. This one's taking a little bit longer. You know, my daughter.
She's going to be so fast. Like,
right?
Yeah.
She's so mature about it now.
Yeah.
But long story short, she's mature because we're modeling maturity during times when it's really heated and it could have really escalated. But we both have chosen, me and my partner both chosen, you don't bring up that kind of anger. It's like bringing the missile launcher. You might win through being aggressive, but you just blew up your whole family. Now try to rebuild it after you've blown them up emotionally. It's too much.
Yeah.
Right?
You're very mindful of how your energy shows up. I wasn't like that.
I wasn't either for years. Right?
I mean,
thanks for the credit, but it's only in the past like 10 years that I've been more mindful. Right. So go on.
For I feel, I have to apologize to my kids because both of me and my husband, when we disagree with each other or fight, and we, especially me, we're not mindful of our kids sitting in front of us and just looking at us. Oh my God, we're the kid and they're the adults watching us. So two of my kids are very mature now, and I was telling my husband, you know what, there's good and bad in this. We're fighting like kids, and I know they will watch us and they will never want to act like us. But with the oldest one, she was young, and when you're young, you don't know logic yet, and she absorbed a lot of things from us, the not so good energy. And how do I know? Because I look at her sometimes, how she handles disappointments and how she handles things that life situation. And I look at her, man, that's me, that's us.
That's even from before.
Yeah,
right?
before. I mean, now she's older. She, like you said, right? She's living outside the home. She no longer so close to us. How are we going to influence her? And right now, I only see her once or twice a year. So what I learned is we have to be so mindful of how energy when your kids are around. It makes a huge difference. You might not know that, but they can feel you.
Right.
And energies can be spread across the house. Right. Even though you're not talking, you think you're hiding from your kids. No, they can sense you so much, right? Or subconsciously too, when you're joking with each other in a mean way, they take that literally seriously.
Yeah.
Because we as NLP practitioners know that subconsciously they absorb everything, whether good or bad, and not meaning to. Right? For example, I didn't know how to speak a certain language, I mean in Chinese, Cantonese. And by hanging around with my friends, I automatically can speak their language. Why?
Over time, right?
Over time, right? So the way I act with my husband, of course, the kids copy the good stuff, but also the not good stuff, they just absorb without not knowing.
Right.
Without knowing. So it's important. The good thing right now is I take responsibility how I used to act, and now try to resolve it and be vulnerable, and now work at twice as hard or 3 times as hard to show a good example, so they can, even though they're older, they can still see there's an impact.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Which leads us to that last portion, which I think we'll save as a part 2 of this video. Helen and I, we've done a lot of self-work, and I'm really proud of the work we've done. Because even though, again, we're not perfect, there's no way in hell we're trying to claim that we're these perfect parents. We're constantly making our own mistakes as life goes by. But what's making us different now compared to who we were 10, 15, 20 years ago, even before you and I ever met each other, the one thing that makes us different now, and I would say makes us better as parents for ourselves, I'm not comparing to others, I'm comparing to who I used to be, is the fact that when we make mistakes or we see our kids doing something that maybe we disagree with, we don't just point the finger anymore. We look at ourselves first and we go, okay, what did I do to contribute to this? Either by giving attention, the wrong kind, or not giving attention. And number 2, if I have to talk to my child, this is the part 2 of the video, am I able to talk to my child without carrying over my own baggage?
That's important.
And that's either past baggage or even present baggage. Now you might be thinking and we've talked about this already, so what do you mean by baggage, past or present? I had the experience of just 3 weeks ago having to talk to my daughter about something I disagreed with that she did. She broke a rule in the house, which was not a big rule. It wasn't even that big a deal. But it was the fact that she broke a rule where she did it in a way where she was not thoughtful about her dad and about her mom. Living in a household together, we've had to learn that in order to make the house feel comfortable, feel good for everyone, we have to be in a habit of being mindful of each other. So if I'm playing music off the TV, for example, I can't blast it because we live in an apartment, and no matter how big or small the apartment, it echoes in the apartment. If my daughter's sleeping and I'm blasting music, well, then I'm not being mindful of her, right? So that's just one example. She did something that we didn't agree with, and what I had to do before I talked to her about it is I had to check in myself and ask myself, how do I feel right now before I have this discussion with her? Because if I have issues from work or a thought that I have about a past experience that's emotionally bothering me, or let's say work is bothering me, or let's say I've got a deadline, so I've got pressure. If those are present in me at that moment of time where I want to talk to my daughter, there's a 99% chance that will leak out out of my voice and actions and be placed on her, where she might end up feeling like I'm actually so upset about her But really, I'm just this upset. But I'm this distraught about something that's happening on my job or in my other parts of my life, something. Now, this is important because sometimes as parents, we are not aware of this. And we won't be aware of it while it's happening. But here's where we do get aware of it, is when we have the conversation with the kid, our kid goes, yeah, okay, yeah, yes, mom, yes, dad, or however they say it. But then the end result is they'll either separate from us, so they'll avoid us. If you got avoidance from your kid, there's something going on. 9 times out of 10, it starts in the home. Right? Sometimes it happens outside too, but if they can't come to you about something that happened outside, then that means there's something that happened in the home that is not resolved and needs to be resolved. Or number 2, what will sometimes happen is the kid will just start to get rebellious. They'll get more assertive, sometimes aggressive. They'll get louder. They'll be confrontational. But oftentimes that happens because the kid doesn't feel understood. And if they don't feel understood, the only thing they know how to do sometimes is just get louder and get more vocal, or sometimes get physical. They'll throw things. And then we look at the kid and go, well, why are you such a bad behaving kid? Well, it's because they're young. They don't know how to express their feelings properly. So they're just being kids and doing what they feel. So if they feel like they're frustrated, it's going to come out like frustrated. If they feel
symptom of something.
Yeah. If they feel hurt or they feel fear, a lot of times they won't be aggressive and throw stuff. I was going to say throw stuff. Instead, they'll retract. They'll go to their room. They'll sit there and read books all day, which is great if they can read books. But there's a difference between them reading the book because they love it versus reading the book to avoid you. Avoidance. I don't want to deal with them. I don't want to deal with that. No, this is easier. And us as parents, we got to pay attention to that stuff. So in the next video, what we're going to talk about is how do you create that emotional separation with your problems, with your personal stuff that has nothing to do with your kids. How do you properly and in a healthy way, not just leave it on a shelf, but actually dispose of those negative emotions. So when it's time to talk to your kid about something that you disagree with, something serious, it's not coming out overbearing. It's not coming out overly explosive. It's coming out in a way where if they made this level problem, we're handling them at this level and not like this level.
Talk in a loving, more connecting way.
Yeah, the emphasis of these conversations is how to maintain love and connection with our kids.
So important for parents.
Even when things are going wrong. Even when things are going wrong. So it doesn't creep up on us later and then something weird comes out of our kids, what I call weird, like what I didn't expect it. And then I'm sitting there going, well, how the hell did that even get there? Why is my kid treating me this way?
I think it's very sad to see parents and the kids don't get along. They don't even speak each other or disconnect that relationship. I have friends who have that kind of relationship with their parent. I think it's so sad. More importantly for the parent, you give birth and you can't talk to your kids. How much money in the world can make up for that? So
we've heard of millionaires that would give up all their millions just to be able to talk to their kids again.
Yes. So that's why we wanted to share this here in this podcast or video. And it's so important that because we're going to leave our kids with something, and when we leave, we want to make sure our kids do well.
Yeah.
It's so important.
What could be more important to us than knowing that our kids can not just survive on their own?
Yeah. When we're not here one day.
Yeah. But they can truly thrive. And what I mean by thrive is that they can actually live in some level of their fulfillment. Not necessarily being rich. That's usually what the first place that people go to. But you can classify it as rich. But rich in relationships, rich in their health, rich in their ability to sustain emotional control when things get bad and it's turmoil. rich in their ability to find solutions, rich in their ability to create lasting relationships. Like that's the kind of stuff that's really important.
It is.
Right? Yeah, super important.
Right.
100%.
So that's why we love it, because we are parents ourselves.
100%.
And a lot of parents are suffering, but it's hard for them to come out and ask for help because either cultural things or just not apply, or they have perhaps past trauma they haven't been able to let go, and it's hard to do that. So what we do is right now we do have tools to help people who have past trauma, and
Right.
help them first, and then can talk to people.
Which is exactly what we're going to talk about in the next episode.
Excited.
Awesome.
Thank you.
If you like this video, go ahead and click like, and if you want to see more like this, go ahead and hit that subscribe or follow button.